What it is, what's up? I got something to cut here. I haven't done a sports video in a minute, and I feel like YouTube is not going to like this content. But if you guys like it, just let me know. I'm going to read through some stats real quick, but I'm not going to just repeat stats because you can find it anywhere. I'm going to have an actual opinionated take on what made Alabama better than Auburn. So that you guys know, I'm an Auburn fan in basketball, football, pre-Hugh Freeze in football. But that being said, I'm coming from this trying to be neutral, not an Auburn fan or whatever. But just flipping this one to numbers real quick. Number 3, Alabama. I did not know they dropped the spot from number 2. Lost or won by 8. I had a late surge in Auburn. I can't believe I literally live in a state. I can't get the two teams right. Auburn just imploded basically towards the tail end there, defensively and more so than anything offensively. I believe they went 1 of 10 over the last 10 shots. That's always weird. The 1 of 10. Do you do the because like if you look at like LeBron's finals, right? Some people say LeBron went 3 of 5 when he only went to 8. I think he went to 9 or 10 by now. But when he only went to 8, some people would say 3 of 5. Some people would say 3 of 8. 3 of 5 being the actual record, while 3 of 8 meaning you won 3 out of the 8 times. So you could say Auburn went 1 of 9, which means they made 1, missed 9. Or you could say they went 1 of 10, which means they went 1 out of 10. Either way, a little bit of a, I don't know, situation there that I kind of explained. But they made 1 of the last 10 shots. They won the first half, or they actually tied in the first half and lost the second half by 8, which you could watch the game and kind of see that. Some of the points, rebounds, and assists here for both teams. So Alabama, they had 34 rebounds. Auburn had 36. They had 14 assists to Auburn's 11. They had 7 steals to Auburn's 9. They had 5 blocks to Auburn's 2. They had 14 turnovers to Auburn's 11. 16 fouls to Auburn's 20. And let's see, free throws, they had 23 to Auburn's 26. And 3-pointers, which I think is a relevant stat for most of the game. 6 of 21 to Auburn's 7 of 24. So I'm just kind of going to do a little very brief breakdown of some of this. Field goal percentage is the biggest disparity between the two. Alabama went 29 of 49 with 60%, to Auburn 20 of 62, 32%. How about we just get into that one first? So, as you could probably feel watching the game, many of these times, you can just do like all three scoring related ones and probably get a good idea of the entire story of the game here. So, Alabama shot far better. They completed shots at a far better clip than Auburn did. I can't necessarily say they generated better looks, which I feel they did, especially easier looks. They didn't need a 3-point to even win this game. They didn't excel in it for most of the game. They started hitting some late between the guards, but they didn't need the 3-ball. And that was the difference. They just generated better shots, simply put. But they also made the easy ones, which Auburn rarely, as this season would prognosticate, rarely makes the easy shots, and did not today either. They did get into a stretch of making some really good looks. Jalen Williams actually made 3 threes, all in, I believe, the first half. Let's see. Yeah, he finished 3 assists, so he went like 3 of 3, so he pretty much made all of his shots in that little stretch in the beginning of the first half, and he kind of got a decent lead. Wendell shot the dickens up the ball. Probably the most consistent shooter they had from beginning to end. Literally, they made 7 threes, and the 7 threes were made between the 2 players I just listed. So, no one really shot particularly bad 3-pointers, I felt like. Jasper went over 2, but I think both of his were open. Flanagan, at least one of his 2 were open. Katie, as I recall, may have had one bad one, but I want to say the other 2, he missed 3. The other 2 were open, one of which was the closing 3 where it was, I believe, 74 to 7. Let's see. 67 to, I want to say 74, and it's kind of peeling off towards the end. Auburn had gotten a steal. Flanagan had gotten a steal. I think he pushed it up I think he got it out to Wendell. Wendell threw it across court to KD. KD was wide open, literally nobody even near him, and just missed it. And that possession, I think, ended up being a fruitless one for Auburn, pretty much ended the game. But that was a huge miss, and as you would expect with Auburn, I would imagine a sub 30% shooting team. They shot below 30% again today and just cannot hit open shots. Free throws kept them in the game. They were 22-26, easily, in my opinion, from just watching the game. Their best free throw shooting night. May not be percentage-wise, but in terms of the gravity of some of the free throws they were hitting, it felt like one of the better, if not the best nights they had all year. Wendell missed a couple that felt like just not enough focus on her. Wendell went 6 of 8. One of the misses were off a three-pointer play, and another one was kind of late, where I think he missed the front end, I want to say. But just, I mean, he's a good shooter, but sometimes he just misses one. It's just like, what the hell happened there? But overall, an amazing day shooting free throw wise, and unfortunately, all for naught. But yeah, it's 32%. Just some bad misses from the 3-point lines, the ones that you needed to have that were really blown the game open. And missing those 3-pointer shots kind of kept it closer than it should have been, especially as you got into the second half, where Auburn was just holding on to these 2- and 3-point leads for the vast majority of the second half. So I guess moving from there, rebounding, pretty much everything else looks pretty much about the same as you would expect watching this game. Two really physical defenses, two defenses that pretty much live on really not letting you get many three-pointers. Alabama's one of the best three-pointer defenses. Auburn's one of the best three-pointer defenses. And both of them kind of played just rock fight type basketball to really get into some platitudes there and some cliches. It sucks because I felt like Auburn had a masterful game plan in regards to defending a three-point shot. Because, I mean, one of these two teams are elite at shooting the ball. The other sucks at shooting the ball. So when I say Alabama did a good job defending a three, it's like, did they really? Or did the bad team just not make shots as you would expect? But, I mean, Alabama really did a great job Auburn did a good job of sticking in three-point shooters' pockets for most of the game. Kind of faltered late in it, but what can you do? And made a lot of the guys who are some of their game breaker shooters feel comfortable. Cough, Brandon Miller. Never let him get into a rhythm shooting the ball. Burnett also went 1 of 5. So Auburn had a masterful game plan defensively. I mean, it's not going to show up in the final score. I mean, they had, 60% from the floor. I mean, that's not going to say masterful in it, but this is a team, if you don't think about stats or whatever, just think about the rosters here. Auburn's entire backcourt, starters and, bench guys, Wendell, 5'11", KD Johnson, 6'1", maybe 6'2". I would lean towards under that. Jeff Jasper, maybe 6'2". I would lean under that. Trey Donaldson, I want to say maybe 6'3". Leroy Berman, who plays some 3 on this team, which is how bad things are at points. He's 6'4", maybe. I'm not even looking at that. I'm just literally just listing these off. I would say most everybody just listed is shorter than the heights I gave them. And Flanagan, who pretty much plays exclusively 3 on this team, he's an undersized 3, I would say. He had to defend Brandon Miller for large portions of his game. They just have a very short, really a short team, honestly. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of times Alabama's 3s will be the same size as R5s and were more athletic than R5s as you would expect. So, I mean, Miller's 6'9", Janai Bruins maybe 6'10", Cardwell's maybe 6'11", and Trey Over didn't get any minutes today. He's 6'11", probably, maybe even taller out of the 3, honestly. But they're all about 6'10" to about 6'11". No one's a true 7-footer that plays minutes for Auburn. And you could see that just watching the game. Auburn or Alabama's perimeter players, some of their wings and forwards were the size of our centers, were more athletic and many times more imposing physically. Many times the star Cardwell get moved out the way. Broom could not get into that little sweet spot with his little hook shot at all. He had at no point was he feeling good with that shot. Burnett was bigger, not Burnett, Bediako was bigger, stronger, and just better. And their backup center, I forgot his name. I think they usually run Pringle at the, no, I think it's Gurley. That's the guy from the Assist 10 guy that we tried to get as well. Assist 8. Where is he from? We tried to get Gurley too. He had a good shot if I remember correctly. Let's see. I remember we tried to get Gurley basically as a JT Thor replacement, the transfer portal. I forgot who he played for, but I know he wanted him. Yeah, Pringle, he played 6'9". Anyway, their guys just seem stronger down low. And the rebounding, basically what kept that close was our guards really got down there and just really played tough. I would say that Wendell fought his ass off rebounds. Flanagan does a really good job of rebounds as much as possible. Katie Johnson got in the thick of things 24/7. What kept the rebounding close is the guards, in my opinion. And I felt that you're going to need a lot of that with... A lot of times our bigs are jumping at players. Our perimeter guys are not the best defensively. Zep Jasper is fantastic. Flanagan does a great job. Outside of that, I mean, it's pretty much traffic cones. I think Katie Johnson can be a good defender, but it just kind of depends sometimes. Wendell Green, Trey Donaldson, he plays tough. I mean, he fights his ass off. He's a smart defender. He's not a bad defender, but he's not like a great one. Wendell Green's just like a traffic cone. And guys just kind of get past our first level pretty easily. And you'll have a lot of moments where you'll have to have Broom or Carl out of position. And if a missed shot happens, usually the other post player for the other team can just easily do a putback because there's nobody to stop them. That happens often in these games and happened quite a few times a day. Just really some really poor rotations, I felt, though, in general. Some poor help at times. I kind of felt that was a consistent theme and why so many easy buckets happened. It's tough because we just, like I said, we don't have the best perimeter defense. We have some guys that are good, but just positionally, you know, frame-wise, just kind of out of their league, so to speak, just too small. And I had some other themes, I guess, that I wanted to cover, but that's really the brass tacks, I guess I want to say. Like, that's the synopsis, just watching the game. That's what separated Auburn from Alabama. I guess some positives. Auburn has a worse roster than this Alabama team. I would say across the board, almost every position. Wendell Green, I would say, outperformed Mark Sears, but it wasn't a massive gap. Mark Sears did have a very solid first half, but he came on late and was a very smart player. Did some very smart things for this team, even though he didn't have an amazing amount of assists. But he was a very sound player to Ohio, and he just continues to prove that. He's also a very good defender. Speaking of good defenders, Rylan Griffin was pretty much the other guard for a good stretch of this game. Bradley was abysmal from the free throw line, but he did do some good things offensively. But Rylan Griffin just was ferocious on defense. Great kind of weak side three-point shooter. Just fantastic two-way game by him. Made Wendell Green's life very, very difficult. I would say Wendell Green maybe win this matchup, but if you go down the whole, you know, front to back, I mean, even Miller was a bad game by his, man, I don't even say bad, but just a tough game by his standards. He definitely grossly outplayed Flanagan. It was pretty much his matchup for most of the game. Jalen Williams had, I would say, a good game, but outside of that, you know, opening stretch three-pointer wise, he didn't, I don't want to say he didn't take over, but he didn't, you know. I mean, if you want to compare him with Clowney, I think he outperformed Clowney, but like, you need like a 12 to 13 shot game from Jalen for him to be like that dog, for him to be like that difference maker. An 8-shot game, even if you're sure at a good efficiency, like that's not I took over the game type numbers. That's I did really well as the third option in the offense, or, you know, sometimes the second option, but pretty much the third option in the offense. And you need more out of him than that, you know. So I would say he won against Clowney. I think Miller won against Flanagan. Bediako won against Broom, in my opinion. It's like a center by committee type thing with him. So it's hard to say, like, maybe Broom was more necessary to his team than Bediako was, but like Broom's had a dreadful day offensively, dude. And 4 fouls. Some of them were ticky-tack fouls, but, you know. And then I think Griffin outplayed Jasper. I mean, it wasn't a Jasper 2-guard game. He pretty much was non-existent down the stretch. They gave Katie Johnson pretty much starter-level minutes in this game as he was a difference maker, I would say. If you wanted to count KD as a starting 2-guard, I think he outperformed Bradley, but you know what? Yeah. So maybe, you know, two guys out of Auburn won their matchup. 3 guys out of Alabama won theirs. I think overall, as a whole roster, I think Alabama played better. And Auburn, like, outcoached Alabama for 90% of the game. So it kind of goes into it being that close as it was amongst the starting lineup. Once Alabama started getting to a groove as far as shot making and especially going to the paint, it was over with really defensively for Auburn. They just couldn't, no matter what you did schematically, once Alabama just pretty much realized they could get past their man, Sears could get past, you know, I don't know, let's say Wendell or Katie. Ryland could find his spots on the perimeter. And Miller just started to feel comfortable, like, going to the cup a little bit more instead of settling for jump shots. It was just nothing you could do. I mean, Miller went, he went 0 for 7 for 3, went 5 for 12 overall. So, I mean, if you take out those 7, 5 of 5, is that what I'm looking at? 5 of 5? Yeah, 5 of 5. And 3 out of 4 from the stripe. So, it just was a game where we pretty much needed them to, I think the announcer even commentated on it. The commentator commentated on it. I don't know. He just pretty much said that if Alabama's going to make tough twos, you're going to have to tip your cap to them. And the twos stopped being tough after the first half. I really want to say it became very easy twos. But there's still some tough ones. I mean, Auburn still played good defense as much as they could, but it really stopped becoming tough twos. And the free throws started opening up too. The refs didn't really allow the ticky-tack stuff to kind of go as much as they did in the first half, which with ACC refs, you kind of just expect that. You know, it just happens. It's just a flow of the game. Things become tighter down the stretch. You know, you can kind of opine if that should be the case, but it just is. So, yeah, that's really about it. I don't really have much else to say. I think the crowd was amazing for a crowd where it pretty much was still open space even an hour before tip-off. I still am in some student group meetings, and I can kind of see that Auburn was sending emails telling people, hey, come to the game, even as much as an hour before tip-off. It was a good crowd even then, counting that. I mean, I just think Auburn has to stop doing the camp-out shit until like they can figure out the best way to optimize attendance for that. The last time they did it last year, it was a sellout. Every game was a sellout. Auburn has had some tougher times trying to actually fill the bleachers than they did last year. As you would expect, they are a decidedly worse product than they were last year. And Auburn, as a fan base, is volatile with attendance. Auburn fans aren't going to want to have me say that, but as someone who went to Auburn for 4.5 years, Auburn get volatile with attendance. They are going to be there for the big games, but it's not going to be the most diligent attendance when Auburn is not good. I'm just going to put it to you bluntly. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, people don't go to games the way they used to. In general, just across the sports of college ball and college football and blah, blah, blah. And people don't go to watch bad products. And Auburn's not a bad team, but, I mean, it's a product that has not been a winning product since 2022. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind. You know, people don't want to watch the same song and dance. And this has been pretty much the same song and dance for Auburn. They had a good game plan defensively. The offense had good stretches, faltered late, some bad shots. And the defense kind of just eventually busted open, pause. And that's just been pretty much. Oh, yeah, and bad shooting. Bad shooting was an equalizer for Auburn, or for at least the team that Auburn's playing. That allowed the other team to stay in the game and eventually win the game. That's just the story of Auburn, and it's probably going to be the story until Auburn restructures the roster, which I believe that they will do. I would not be surprised to see, honestly, 3 to 5 contributors that weren't even on this team next year. I would not be surprised about that. Pearl had the philosophy of trying to find a couple pieces to retool the roster last year, and he did recruit heavy. I mean, I think they spread the net wide, expecting not to get that many people, but they got even less than they got or they could have ever expected. They just had some big misses, especially around the perimeter. But even with that being, I think they still intend on running most of this roster back. I think there's some guys that would have got maybe pushed away if they landed some of the guys they wanted to land, but they didn't. So we see there's a couple names that may not have been expected. I'm not going to say anything in particular because I don't know anybody particularly would have been kicked off, but just some names that if you were watching last year, you would have thought maybe not be on the team this year. I expect there to be some guys that probably bigger names that will not be on this roster this year. I would be very, very surprised to see this entire roster, even most of this roster return. Well, I won't say most, but a good chunk of it. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to try to just upload this raw, throw some clips on here to give you guys something to look at. But hope you guys enjoy. If you want me to do more basketball stuff, Auburn stuff, any kind of sports stuff, just let me know. Peace.